Okay, so you handed us some really interesting source material this time. Looks like we're diving deep into morning routines.
That's right. It's a popular topic, definitely. And these sources, they seem to frame it less about, extreme discipline.
And more about setting a foundation.
Exactly. Setting a foundational state for the day ahead.
Right. So our mission today really is to unpack these sources you brought in. We want to pull out the core ideas, the actionable steps.
Mm-hmm.
The goal is to figure out how being intentional in those first few hours,
Mm-hmm.
how that can actually, ripple outwards, impact the whole day.
And the sources have a pretty compelling hook, I think. It's not really pushing the whole, wake up at 5 a.m. thing or some guru's crazy schedule.
Now, it seems more focused on just creating a calm, focused start,
Yeah, exactly. That calm, focused beginning.
which feels key. It's about choosing how you start, right? Taking control.
Instead of just reacting.
Yeah, instead of just immediately getting sucked into reacting to whatever hits you first thing.
Yeah.
Emails, news, whatever.
And the sources actually lay out a pretty clear path for this deep dive. We'll look at why mornings are supposedly so important,
Okay.
what mistakes people tend to make, the essential steps to actually build a routine.
The practical bits.
Right. And crucially, how to make it stick, because that's often the hard part, isn't it?
Absolutely. Okay, let's start there then, that foundational question. Why do these sources say the morning matters so much?
Yeah.
What's the core idea?
Well, a lot of it seems to boil down to momentum
Hmm.
and psychological priming.
Priming, how so?
The idea is that your state of mind, your energy level in that first hour or so, it tends to set the tone. It influences the hours that follow.
Okay, so it's
Oh.
not just about like ticking off tasks early. It's more about the feeling, the state you create.
Precisely. If you start out feeling rushed or, overwhelmed, distracted, that feeling often lingers.
Hmm.
But if you start calm, focused, intentional, it creates a different kind of energy, a more sustainable one.
Like setting a baseline.
Yeah, the sources talk about that first hour as this crucial window, a chance to be proactive, ground yourself before all the external stuff starts demanding your attention.
That makes intuitive sense, like setting your internal compass before you sail out into the day's weather.
Good analogy.
But okay, if it's so good for us, why is it often so hard? What do the sources point to as the common mistakes? The ways we trip ourselves up?
They definitely highlight a few big ones. Pitfalls that basically sabotage that crucial first hour.
And I bet I can guess the first one. Does it involve a small, glowing rectangle?
You got it. Reaching for the phone almost immediately upon waking.
Knew it.
Yeah, the sources are really clear on this. It just instantly throws you into reactive mode.
Right. Emails, social media, news.
Exactly. Stuff designed to grab your attention, demand a response. You basically start the day focused on other people's priorities, not your own.
You give away that proactive window right at the start. Okay, that's a big one. What's the second trap?
Having no clear intention for the morning, no plan.
Just kind of drifting.
Yeah. You might be awake, but without knowing what you actually want to do at that time, you just drift. Maybe feel busy, but not really accomplish anything meaningful.
Right, the classic busyness trap. Activity, but no real direction. And the third mistake,
Trying to do too much too soon.
the overhaul approach.
Exactly. The sources really caution against trying to implement some huge, complicated routine overnight. It just leads to frustration, feeling overwhelmed, and then giving up.
So the advice there is probably start simple, build up.
Definitely. Consistency with a few simple things is way more powerful than trying and failing to do 10 complex things perfectly.
Okay, so avoid the phone first thing,
Okay.
have some kind of simple plan or an intention, and don't bite off more than you can chew initially. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So if those are the things to avoid, what do the sources suggest we actually do? They outline some essential building blocks, right?
Yeah, they lay out 5 core elements. And what's nice is they suggest it doesn't have to take hours, maybe, 30, 40 minutes total.
Yeah. Okay, let's break them down. What's the first building block?
Wake up with purpose.
Okay, what does that involve practically?
Well, a consistent wake up time is part of it. But crucially, when the alarm goes off, get up relatively quickly.
No snooze button.
They are not fans of the snooze button. One source calls it a momentum thief.
Ooh, I like that. Momentum thief. Steals your attention right away.
Exactly. And this step also includes simple physical things right away, like a quick stretch, drinking a glass of water.
Just waking up the body gently. Rehydrating.
Precisely. Get moving, get hydrated, resist the snooze. That's step 1.
Okay, element number 2.
Begin with stillness.
Stillness. Like meditation.
It can be, but the sources suggest just 3 to 5 minutes. It's less about achieving, like, perfect Zen enlightenment
Right.
and more about just finding a moment of quiet presence, deep breathing, maybe a very short meditation, or even just sitting quietly, noticing your breath.
Just a pause, a little mental space before the day's noise really starts.
Exactly. Create that space. Ground yourself.
I can see how even 3-5 minutes could feel challenging for some people, though. Any tips from the sources on making that easier?
Yeah, they emphasize just trying. Focus on your breath, maybe notice sounds around you without judging them. Simple entry points. The point is dedicating the time, not achieving some perfect state of mind.
Okay, lowering the bar helps, makes it feel more doable. What's the third element?
Feed your mind. This one gets about 10 minutes in their example.
Feed your mind. How?
Engaging with something positive or enriching. Reading a few pages of an inspiring book, maybe listening to a short educational podcast clip, watching a quick TED Talk, or something similar.
So intentional input, choosing what goes into your brain first.
Right. Instead of just passively letting the emails or news feed dictate your first thoughts, you curate it.
Okay, makes sense. Fourth element.
Move your body.
The exercise part. How long for this?
Around 10 to 15 minutes is suggested, and again, the sources stress this isn't about like a hardcore workout.
No marathon training before breakfast.
No. More like simple movement. A brisk walk, some stretching, maybe some light body weight stuff like push-ups or squats. Just getting the blood flowing.
Waking up the physical self, basically.
Yeah.
Getting some energy going.
Exactly. Activating the body, which they suggest really helps activate the mind too. Sets your energy for the day.
Okay, and the fifth and final core element.
Plan your day.
Okay, this sounds
But
important.
how long for this?
This is quick, maybe 5 minutes. The idea is just to identify your top priorities for the day.
Like the 1 to 3 most important things.
Yeah, what absolutely needs to get done. Or maybe frame it as, what would make today feel like a success if you accomplished it?
Setting that clear focus. Knowing where to aim your energy.
Right. It gives you direction and acts like a filter for all the distractions that inevitably pop up later.
And the source material even gives a sort of hypothetical timeline, doesn't it? Showing how these pieces could fit. Yeah, it lays out an example like wake up, 6.30. Stillness, 6.35. Feed mind, 6.40. Move body, 6.5. Plan day, 7.05. And then you're ready to start your main work or activities around 7.1. Roughly 35-40 minutes total.
Which really drives home the point that it doesn't have to be this massive hours-long commitment.
Exactly. It shows it's feasible even if you're not a super early bird or don't have tons of free time in the morning.
And it's just an example, right?
Yep.
Flexible.
Absolutely. The core idea is consistency with the elements, not rigid adherence to a specific minute-by-minute schedule.
Okay, so we have the building blocks. Wake up, stillness, feed mind, move body, plan day. But like we said, the real kicker is making it stick. Consistency. What practical tips do the sources offer for that?
They have a few key strategies, mostly focused on reducing friction and building that momentum we talked about.
Preparing the night before. That seems like a classic one.
It is, and the sources explain why it works. It basically takes the decision-making load off your morning brain, which is, probably still a bit foggy.
Right. Less thinking needed when you're half awake.
Yeah. Lay out your clothes, hack your lunch or bag, maybe set up the coffee maker, anything that makes starting smoother.
Removes obstacles.
Yeah.
And keeping the routine itself simple, especially at first. We touched on that.
Absolutely essential.
Yeah.
If it feels like this huge, daunting task, you're just not going to do it long term. Start small, make it easy to win.
Okay. What about tracking? Does that help?
They do suggest using a simple habit tracker, just checking off the days you complete your routine or even the individual elements.
Why does that work?
It gives you that visual feedback, that sense of progress. Seeing a streak build up can be really motivating, reinforces the habit.
Creates a little positive feedback loop.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the most important one, for dealing with life happening. The inevitable off day. What's the advice for when you slip up?
Yeah, this is crucial. The sources really emphasize if you miss a day, or even just miss one part of the routine one day, it's okay.
Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Exactly. Don't declare the whole thing a failure and give up. The advice is simple. Just restart the very next morning.
No guilt spiral. Just get back on track tomorrow.
Right. Don't let one missed morning undo weeks of good effort. Consistency over perfection.
Okay, so this whole deep dive into the sources, it really paints a different picture of a productive morning, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. It's less about hitting some kind of impossible ideal.
Right.
And much more about consciously building this sequence of small intentional actions. creating momentum.
It's about creating and protecting that positive momentum right from the start. That seems to be the thread running through all this material.
That's the core idea, definitely.
And the promise, according to these sources, is that if you can intentionally shape those first minutes, maybe that first hour,
you significantly boost your chances of having a day that feels more focused, more productive, and importantly, less reactive.
winning the morning helps you win the day.
That's the phrase they use, yeah. It sets you up.
Okay, so boiling all this down to the sources, if you, listening, wanted to try something tomorrow morning,
Right.
the key actions, framed simply, would be,
Wake up with purpose, meaning actually get out of bed.
right, skip the phone check, at least for a bit.
Take just a few minutes for some stillness, some breathing.
Feed your mind with something positive, intentionally,
Move your body, even gently.
and take those couple of minutes to plan your main focus for the day, your priorities.
They seem like simple steps, individually, but the sources argue their real power comes from doing them, together, consistently, even if imperfectly.
It builds on itself. So the final thought these sources seem to leave you with, the question to maybe chew on is, how might committing to this one seemingly small choice, the choice to intentionally shape your morning consistently over time, how might that actually transform things on a bigger scale? Your life, your work, your well-being?
Yeah, it's a powerful question about the compounding effect of small positive habits, isn't it?
It really shifts it from feeling like a chore to maybe a foundational practice, like you said earlier. Well, thank you for bringing this material in for us to explore today. It's definitely given us, and hopefully you listening, a really practical, actionable way to rethink the start of the day.
My pleasure. It was interesting stuff to dive into.